Hello everybody, welcome to another update on the stock screener. Today we're going to talk about Capstone Mining. They just released earnings and they were pretty okay. But let's take a look at the copper market first. We got some news on the real economy index, which is derived from the bulk dry cargo shipping rates, and the numbers went down a bit this month, but it's still very high. Okay, so we're hanging on here. So I think that the copper price will stay at the level of $4 in the coming months. The 10-year Treasury bond yield has been declining, so that's a bad sign for copper, but I think copper will hold on. Let's take a look at the warehouse levels. So last time we said that these warehouse stock levels need to come down historically. So let's see if that is happening. We were at above 800,000 tons. And the latest numbers, I have been following it up. We see that the warehouse inventories has gone below 800,000. So that's a very good sign. A very good sign because this is coming lower than 800,000. So historically, we're looking good here. And the copper price has actually risen back to $4.50, as you can see here, $4.50. So that's looking great. China power consumption, those are still the same numbers. We see some growth in China, and GDP is also growing. Credit impulse is still a worry for me, but I think we shouldn't worry too much about what's happening here. I think Europe and USA will be doing very well. The Shanghai index has gone down a bit. That's not a good sign, but I think most of this has to do with the tech sector, with Alibaba and Tencent and those education stocks going down. So that's more to do with that than the copper price and commodities. GDP in the US has been sliding, and this is going to continue to slide, but we're still in the positive, so that's good. Now, we know now that China has been releasing its copper stockpiles, and they sold 20,000 tons somewhere in 5 July, I think. And then they sold another 30,000 just yesterday. So we don't know how much they will sell, but I think these numbers are very small. So that's also why copper has been rising. This is just chump change. If you compare this to the 400,000 and 300,000 of production increases, then this is nothing. Let's take a look at the seasonal charts. So we are now in August. We could go up a bit and then down a bit. So this is pretty stable. And from October onwards, we will rise again until April. So this is a good time to accumulate copper miners. The COT report is looking very good. So these are periods where the shorts are getting lower and the open interest is also going lower. This means that copper is bottoming out. And this is a long-term chart of that. So this here is just a retracement correction in the copper price. And well, we could see another correction down to here, maybe, and then we will go higher in copper. But this is very healthy to see that. We are seeing the shortest go away in copper. Australian dollar was not that good. Chinese yuan is stable. Technicals looks very good. CRB index is also going higher. Let's take a look at the shipping rates. Shipping rates are hanging in there at the top. So it's going down a bit, but I think it's very stable. Forecasts are still the same. We will see a 10% rise. Inflation, we do have inflation. When we look at the latest number, the break-even index is going higher. The economic index is a bit lower, but pretty stable. And Nana says that we could have a drop and then go higher. So there could still be a drop in copper coming in. But I think the fundamentals are so bullish for copper. Goldman Sachs has raises the EV adoption outlook. Look at this. The base case was this many amounts of EVs, and we have hyper adoption now. So the amount of EVs are going to increase. And that means that we need more copper. Look at this. The environmental policies will lead to higher EV sales. So Goldman Sachs has revised it upwards each time. This is in July. The revision says that EV sales will be up. This was the old copper shortage chart with a shortage of 200,000 tons. Next year, a little bit less. And then a huge surplus in 2023, a surplus in 2024, and then going back into deficit. And now Goldman Sachs has revised that. So the deficit is going to be larger, 280,000 this year, then the same here, 200,000. But in 2023, we won't have a large surplus anymore of 300,000, but only about 100,000. So this is very important. And in 2024, we won't have a surplus, but a deficit. And then 2025 will be an even larger deficit of about almost 500,000 tons. So this is very bullish. We will just see a small, tiny surplus in 2023, and then the rest is deficits in copper. So I expect that the copper price will keep rising this year, next year, then go a bit down in 2023, and then will start rising again. So that's very good. And that's also why Capstone Mining is going higher. So we had a small correction, and I think that Capstone Mining will keep rising higher in the future. Okay, let's take a look at the earnings. They have generated a record operating cash flow. So that's a record. Very good. And Capstone Mining is just a cash cow now. They have 172 million in cash now. I think they had maybe 40 million last quarter, and now it's 170 million. Now the net income was 68.7 million. That's a PE of around 6. Very cheap. EBITDA 128, that's an EBITDA multiple of 3, also very cheap. Production was a bit lower this quarter, but that's because they had some maintenance at Pinto Valley, and that's planned maintenance. So if they didn't have maintenance, production would be higher this quarter. That's important to know. So that means that these earnings would be even higher in the next quarter. Let's take a look. What do we have more here? We see that Cozamin mine has more production from 8 million pounds to 13.8 million pounds. That's also important. So they had higher production. Costs were a bit higher at Pinto Valley, but that's because of the plant maintenance. You can go over these things, a lot of optimizations that will come next year, which will increase production and reduce costs. This is also important. We have a restart of the molybdenum production. I calculated it, and it's about 3 million per year that they will earn from this. That's not a lot. I think about 1%, but it's something. The icing on the cake. Santo Domingo is still ongoing, still discussions, but I think in the next months this will be finalized. So let's take a look at the valuations now. Let's start with the financials. So this yellow line is the equity. You can see that the equity has been rising. That's a good sign. Equity went from 881 million to 935 million. And this will continue to rise at a pace of a PE of 6, which means 20% per year. Where do you find another company where you can earn 20% per year? I can guarantee you can't get that when you deposit money in the bank. Okay, the earnings are positive, revenues are rising, so these are very good numbers. Market cap is at 1.8 billion. I updated the equity to 935, price to book of 2. This is a bit high, but we know that the earnings will be at 300 million plus. So in about 2 years from now, we will approach the market cap. So this equity will rise in 2 years to the market cap. And the PE, as I said, is at 6 right now. This is a very good valuation to buy. And this PE of 6 is, of course, not counting in the production increase next year and also the Santo Domingo project, which will put the PE at, I think, around 2. So there's plenty of upside here. And the valuations are not expensive. So I think this can easily double or triple in the coming 2 to 3 years. Let's take a look at the production. So as I said, the Cozamin mine went up here in production because they are now producing from the higher grade material. So that's very good, and this will continue to rise. The Pinto Valley mine went down due to maintenance, also due to wildfires. But this will probably go back up in the next quarter. So the total production will go back higher in the next quarter. with higher earnings as well. So this is a small update on Capstone Mining. I think we're on track to go much higher. Copper price is also helping, and Goldman Sachs says that copper will at least stay at these levels due to EV adoption. So I think this is a keeper, and I'll see you in the next video.